Hey, real quick before the show starts today, I just wanted to remind all my friends over there in the UK and Ireland that my tickets for my March 2024 spring tour are on sale now. We're going to be going to Dublin, Belfast, Glasgow, Manchester, Birmingham, wrapping it up in London. So I hope I see you all there. Grab yourself some tickets today, and let's get to today's episode. That's my favorite part right there. If it was me, I don't think I would have the discipline to just let it hang there. I'd just go like this. Oh, and then there's this one. No, that's not it. Woo! 1, 2, 3. All right, I'm Chris Shiflett, and we have a fantastic episode for you today. For all you Strat enthusiasts, it's none other than Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. But first, curious to hear what all you loyal listeners and viewers out there think about Rolling Stone's 250 best guitar players list they published recently. I gotta admit, I didn't really look at it that closely myself. I know a few Shred with Shifty guests actually wound up on there, but a few of them didn't. No Brad Paisley? I don't know. What exactly is their definition of best anyway? Is it influence? Is it technique? Is it commercial success? I want to know what you think. Who should have been on there that wasn't on there? And, you know, in what order and all that sort of stuff. Respond in the comments below, please. Thank you. Alrighty, you know you can always watch the ad-free versions of this show at volume.com/shifty. Maybe you're watching it there right now. Maybe you're not. So there you go. And follow me on socials. And as always, learn the solo, film the solo, post the solo, and tag us, Shred with Shifty, in your video so we can find it and make fun of you later. Oh, and one more thing. Have you bought tickets yet for my 3rd annual Hometown Holiday Hoedown? Q Graphic. Check out those lineups. Jim Lindberg from Pennywise, Tom Curran, Surf Legend, Joey Cape from Lagwagon, Gandy Dancer, burning it down for 2 nights at the Soho in Santa Barbara. You don't want to miss it, so get your tickets now right over there at chrisshiflettmusic.com. All right, that's enough about that. Let's get to the interview today. Let's talk about my man, Mike McCready. For today's episode, we went all the way back to the beginning, to the song that kicked off Pearl Jam's career, and he broke down the solo from their era-defining hit tune, Alive. He is, of course, equal parts Stratocaster and Les Paul, Jimi Hendrix and Ace Frehley, 80s rock and 90s grunge, as you can tell right here. This is Mike McCready from Pearl Jam on Shred with Shifty.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, this is Mike McCready, and check me out on Shredding with Shifty. I've seen him shred live, and he freaking shreds. I saw the solo. So, watch
Perfect.
I did. You fucking shredded that solo when you were in Seattle last time. It was awesome.
Oh, man, you know, it's so, you know what I was thinking about when I was driving over here today was, when was that? Had to be like a couple of years ago that we played up there. It's like 2021. I'm pretty sure you're the first person I ever asked to be on the show when it was just a kernel of an idea at that point. So far from actually coming to, you know, fruition.
You did ask me about it back then. I remember that.
Yeah.
And I said yes.
I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to get a superstar guest because he's in our backstage right now. I can't let it go. So, dude, Mike McCready, thank you for coming and doing this, dude. I really appreciate it. This is going to be great.
Chris, I am honored to be part of this. Thank you. And big fan of your playing. So it's going to be fun. I like your ideas.
Awesome. So. Likewise. So today we're focusing on the solo from the Pearl Jam classic, Alive, of course. So let me set the stage for the people viewing at home. It's the early 90s. 80s rock is going the way of the dodo, and this new thing is bubbling up called alt rock or grunge or however you want to call it. And the music is changing quite a bit in that period. And specifically relating to what we're talking about today, I was really wondering this. Like guitar solos were kind of becoming culturally illegal at that point. Yeah. So how did you hold on to being a lead guitar player through that era? Like you're a proper lead guitar player that came, that became famous in this era when like the rest of us were having to pretend we hadn't sat there learning Judas Priest songs our whole lives.
Right. It's interesting that you put it that way because that was totally what was happening. And there was that kind of a thing in Seattle. It's like if you didn't have this punk rock background or whatever, then you just were kind of looked down upon or whatever. And, I came up myself. I saw Judas Priest twice, and I saw Iron Maiden. Stone and I headbanged at Iron Maiden. So it's like, in 1982. So there was a metal thing in my world. Sure. I played a kind of a punk metal band called Shadow in the early 80s. So I come from that. My roots came from that. And in terms of, the leads, being able to do leads in the band, when the band first started, I think Stone, I had known Stone for many, many years. It's kind of a long story, but when Love Bone was still happening, Mother Love Bone was happening, I was playing guitar, and I had known Stone since 6th grade. So the Seattle scene was very small, and everybody knew each other, the punk guys, the metal guys, and we were at a party at my friend Tim DiGiulio's house. This was when Love Bone was still happening, and I was kind of just starting to play guitar. Again, I've been playing since I was 11, but I've gone on and off doing it. At any rate, I was at a party, and I was playing along to a Stevie Ray Vaughan record. I was playing Couldn't Stand the Weather. I think I was going... So... something like that. But I was doing it in the bedroom of this party, and Stone walked in, and he heard me playing, and he said, "Hey man, you sound great," whatever. And we shared a beer and whatever, and then went on. The party was over after that, and then Love Bone, we all know what happened there. And I got a call from him later on after Andy died, and I think it was him seeing me play leads that night, and him wanting to start another band where we were, two guitars. One guy would do leads and one guy would do rhythm, and based on an Aerosmith kind of thing or based on a Stones thing. And so I think that's my remembering of it. And so I was very comfortable doing leads. So I was happy to go, fuck yeah, I'm in,
I mean, how do you sort of view that from this vantage point now? It's been so many years since then. I remember just being a music fan and a young guitar player playing around town and trying to make it and all that thing. It just felt like this sea change was happening, and you could really feel it. And of course you guys and Nirvana and Soundgarden, everybody was on the forefront of that. And it seemed like it's different nowadays, where everybody kind of likes it, at least says that they like everything. But back then it was like, I'm this thing and everything else is bad, and this thing that we'd all been into up until a couple months ago. Well, now we hate it, and there was that thing back then. It was just a more judgmental time, musically speaking. So, what was that like to live through as one of the primary players, and sort of how do you view it now?
It was funny because I laugh about it now, but I think there's a certain kind of a pretentiousness to it of if you don't like this kind of punk rock, then you're not legitimate or this or that, And I remember that being a very viable thing. And, at the same time, I could just only do what I knew how to do, which was play leads and play guitar. And Stone was writing songs, and Jeff were in the vein of classic rock, I guess, which is what I came up on. And our band was kind of that way. There was a punk element to it in terms of the ethos and all that, but it wasn't as Nirvana. You knew that was what they drew from. Right. And that's why they were fucking amazing. but we drew from other sources. You know, I drew from metal and blues, and Stone drew from punk, but also he had some metal in, but Jeff was all punk. You know, so that we all came from these diverse backgrounds, and Ed had the Clash, but he also liked Springsteen. So there's all these. How I view it now is, it's is that what you were asking? Is how I kind of look at it now?
Yeah. Just kind of looking back at it. At those were wild times. Everything blew up so quickly. You know, none of us expected it to blow up at all. So, you know, the thing I felt when we first started the band, and Ed came along, I was like, oh man, we're a good band. This is my first situation I've ever been in. And I'm sure you feel this way, is like, everybody's fucking great in the band. You know, like you guys, everybody's great in your band. So you know that, and it has to be a chemistry thing. So I felt good about it there. I felt, okay, I think I think we're going to be good, you know? But I had no idea we were going to sell millions and millions of records, you know, on our first record when we hadn't been around for that long. You know, it was within a year when that started happening. Yeah. We'd been in bands, you know, like separately for paying our dues for many, many years, but it came out of fucking left field. That's all I can say. You had mentioned, with this solo in particular, there's a thing like a lick in there that you kind of copped off Ace Frehley, but maybe he had copped off of Robbie Krieger. So was Ace a big influence for you? Yeah, I mean, Kiss was the reason I started playing guitar. It was hands down. I was a Cub Scout, and I was looking for my merit badges. And my friend Rick Friel had a Kiss lunchbox in 6th grade, and I was like, "What is that?" And I remember just coming home a couple days later and talking to my dad and just saying, "Dad, I don't want to do the Cub Scouts anymore. I want to do this. I want to play guitar or whatever, you know?" And my parents were cool enough to buy me a $100 Mateo Les Paul in 1979, you know? So I started playing guitar at 11 and I just obsessed and went, that's all I ever did. I started playing guitar at 11, and it was 100% because of Ace Frehley too. So we have that in. There's probably a lot of us out there that started playing guitar because of Ace Frehley and quit whatever else. You know, I'm not playing soccer anymore. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I want to be Space Ace, or I want to be the Star Child. I want whatever that. Kiss was such a huge thing to kids of the 70s. Whatever. I had a Kiss room and everything. So I obsessed on it. It was exciting. And then that turned me on to all sorts of other music, you know, out of that, you know, of the 70s. And sure, I just wanted to emulate that stuff, you know, as I still do to this day. But to answer your question about when I first heard when we were first working on Alive, it was at Stone's parents' house in their attic up there with this dog at our feet, and Jeff was there, and it was just the three of us. And I remember hearing it and going, okay, this is cool. What can I do over this? And it just reminded me of the pattern lent itself to going, which was the Ace Frehley She solo, which I later found out was the Robbie Krieger 5-1 solo. But I knew directly I was taken from Ace because, like you said, he was the man, you know, and I wanted to play like those guys. I loved Kiss. I loved Aerosmith. I loved. I mean, it's a funny thing with Ace Frehley because you can't exactly say he's underrated because obviously Kiss was super famous and successful, but because of the makeup and the theatrics, I as popular as he is, I feel like still he does not get his just due for what a great lead player he was. And those, you know, every one of his solos on those old records you could sing in your head. You know, it's a melody in all on its own. Okay, so if you started playing when you were about 11, like were you a disciplined guitar student? Like, do you have, coming through those years, did you learn all that crazy, like as it got into the 80s, like all like Malmsteen licks and like all that crazy picking and all that stuff? Yeah. I did. Nice. I got into all that stuff, and I lived in LA in 1986. I was trying to make it in my band Shadow down there, and I was a metal guy, and I had a Kramer Pacer, you know, with a Floyd Rose on it. So I was like, I can't do it on this one, anyways. But yeah, I could all the.
I could do all that stuff. And I was way into it. And then one day in 1980, it must have been 88 or 87, I saw the band's Last Waltz on TV, and I saw Muddy Waters on it, and that suddenly stopped me in my tracks. And I had been kind of listening to Stevie Ray Vaughan a little bit at that time anyways, but Muddy, I was like, wait, what is this? This is, I've heard about it, through the Stones, and I've heard about his music and everything, but watching him play and sing, it seemed like he could do more with one note than I was doing with all these thousands of notes. And that shifted my reality in terms of how I was playing guitar. So I kind of gave that up, I guess, so to speak. And then I saw Stevie Ray Vaughan 4 times, and he was my hero, right around 87, 88, 89, and a little bit before that. So I kind of went in this blues, quote unquote, blues direction, which was less is more, I guess.
Yeah, that's a tough thing that I feel like I still struggle with, and will probably always struggle with, because my formative years as a guitar player were in that era in the 80s where you were just trying to pack as many notes into this much space as you possibly could. That thing of just less is more, like you just said, like just holding a single note and letting it just kind of breathe a little bit. I still feel like probably to this day that's something that I have to think about more than I sort of intuitively do. I don't know. Do you still, like, are you somebody that still is like woodshedding on, when you're at home and trying to learn and learn different technique and all that sort of thing?
I'm not necessarily I sit down and I'm going to go practice in woodshed for 2 hours straight. I will pick up a guitar every day if it's just kind of there. Yeah. And I'll usually play acoustic, I'll play, I don't generally play electric when I'm at home, because if I'm writing songs, I write them on acoustic a lot of times. And I feel like the acoustic is easier just to pick up and play than, okay, I got to plug my guitar in and play it. And so I'm more of an acoustic player. But then I think that brings my strength to when we go on tour, to the electric. It's easier to play when I've been playing acoustic all the time.
Right.
But like you're saying, Chris, I have to think about not playing too much sometimes. I mean, I have to go, like in a live, there's that one note where I'm hitting that one note, and I don't have a univibe on me, but I'm going, it's like a, so I'm just trying to do this one thing. That's it. Yeah. So there's an example of me trying to slow down in that solo. Probably not thought about at that time, but I still think about it sometimes. But I generally want to feel it,
Do you remember the moment that you became a lead guitar player? Like when you were a kid, do you remember what it was, what the lick you learned was, or what that was, where it went from chords and scales to, like, where you're actually going, or what, whatever the lick was for you, what was it?
It probably like something like an ace lick, like that. Something like that. And I remember it was when I was in my band Shadow in the 80s, I was the rhythm player, so I didn't do a lot of leads. And then when our lead guitar left, and that was like in 1986, I was the lead player after that. So I kind of turned into a lead player in Los Angeles, I guess. Oh, by having to do it.
Yeah.
And that's where it was. I did a couple when I was 15 or 16, but I was mostly a rhythm player back then.
I'm so glad that that's the lick that you just brought up, because that is like core to my being, as you know, because you were at our show. That's like every guitar solo that I ever play starts or ends with. Was that, I mean, to me, like we used that, that's an Ace Frehley lick. Who did it? Yep. Who did Ace bite that from? Like, where did that come? I think of it as like a more, shreddy adaptation on the Chuck Berry thing. But who do you think did it for?
I would think that Ace was like in a Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck and that era guys. Yeah. But you can kind of hear that in obviously in some of the Jimmy Page stuff and Jeff Beck, the late great Jeff Beck. But I don't know. I asked Ace that one time, and he goes, "Oh, you know who my influences are," and I was like, "No, I don't. That's what I'm asking you." So, but I feel like I think he liked Hendrix a lot, and he liked those guys, from the early '70s and late '60s. Those guys.
Okay, there's a thing that I've been trying to establish on this show, and I've done it. I think this is maybe like my 8th interview at this point for this. And I thought this was something that we all did as guitar players, but I'm beginning to realize that maybe it's just something that I do as a guitar player, because I thought everybody was going to have a go-to guitar store lick. Like, what's the thing you play when you walk into Guitar Center and the vintage room doors open up and somebody hands you a guitar you've never played and plugs it in? Like, what is your go-to? What is it?
It's probably something like. Some funky something like that. I want to feel it. I want to feel the neck. I want to feel like. And I'll change the pickup. So like I'll do stuff like that.
Yes. Finally, you're the first person I've interviewed that has a guitar store lick. Thank you.
Well, it's so I don't know if you find this, Chris, but when I'm in a guitar store, if I'm looking at a guitar and I'm playing, it has to play perfect the first time I play it, or I'm not going to get it. It's like it's got to play. The neck has to be awesome. It's got a big, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. You got to see how it fights you back a little bit, Yeah.
Or a song idea comes out of it or something.
Yeah.
It has to have kind of a personality to it, I think, for me.
That is a really trippy thing with guitars, man. There is something to that. Like, you get a new guitar that you're kind of obsessed with, and then you write like 7 songs on it. You know what I mean? There's something in that. Like, I know it shouldn't matter. Could be any guitar, but it kind of does matter sometimes.
I think it does matter. And I know that when I'm buying a new one, and I haven't for a while, but it's got to play really great immediately, or it never will.
Why don't we jump into the day that you recorded the solo for Alive? Like, what do you remember about that day in the studio?
Okay.
Who else was there with you? Do your bandmates tend to get involved in the solos you play, like helping you kind of craft them, or or do you just kind of wing it till you find the match?
It depends on the solo, like, and the time. I'm going to try to go all the way back to Alive. That was. Hang on, sorry, I want to be unprofessional and tune up right now with my little.
It's totally fine.
Okay. So Alive, we were at London Bridge Studios. I remember just doing it as I do many of my leads over the years. It's either the first or second take, first, second, or sometimes third. But after that, I'm all thinking about it too much, so it doesn't sound as good.
Do you have it kind of mapped out before you get there, or you just like literally like press play and let's see what happens? Press play and go.
I can't think about it. It's got to be. I've got to feel the emotion or the attention, the intention or the intensity of the song.
Yeah.
And draw from that. But I'm not thinking about any of that. I'm just going, okay, roll it. And I just have to go,
This one feels very in the moment. This feels like a first or second take kind of guitar solo.
This and I probably should go back to Temple of Dog, because around that time, that was my first record I ever played leads on extensively, or first major label record I ever got to be on. Because they were right around the same time. So I had an example of that when I did Reach Down solo. I did the first pass of it, and Chris Cornell was like, that was pretty good, but I'm going to go outside and have a cigarette. I want you to just fucking go crazy. And prior to that, I felt that I wanted to be very careful, because I was walking into this situation where these were the songs written about Andy, and they're a friend of his, and I'm into this new situation, although I knew some of the guys, but I wanted to be very careful on how I was playing, because I didn't want to overplay.
Yeah.
And it turned out he wanted me to overplay. So I was being too cautious. So he went out, had a cigarette, and I went, and I did the Reach Down solo in one take. And like at the end of it, my headphones were on the ground and all sorts of shit, and I don't remember it. But when that can happen, Chris, that's the best. And you've noticed that when you do leads too. It's just like you're somewhere else. And but that happened with the live too as well, you know. But the Temple experience opened me up to be able to do the Alive solo the way I did.
I mean, how has that changed for you over the years? I mean, I certainly, in my own experience, just the more time you spend in studios making records, you know, your confidence kind of builds. But it can be a really unnerving thing. You know, we're all kind of insecure, really. You know, most musicians have an insecure streak in them somewhere, and you're totally exposed when you're doing that. And you might be in a room full of people, and maybe some of them you don't even barely know that are working on your record. But as the years have gone by, do you approach it different, or was that just kind of the guidepost for you?
And it's kind of the guidepost. There's a few. It depends on the song. Again, like there's a song called Sirens that I wrote, and I wrote the solo I wrote for that. I wanted it to sound like an ambulance when it was going by. Like, so that was a thought out kind of written solo.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time it's just off the top of my head. And we just finished recording some stuff with Andrew Watt recently, and I just did all my solos from the first or second take again. You know, he was very encouraging and sort of like, hey, just do a bunch of leads. And to answer your question earlier, Jeff and Stone were there. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And Matt was there, and it was cool. We're all, you guys are probably this way too. We're just brothers in this thing. So we're trying to make each other better at the same time. You know, it helps. It helps when they're around for me, you know, because I want to like just kind of impress them, or, you know,
or just have the sounding board. Yeah, a
sounding board of it. And sometimes they have good ideas, and sometimes I don't like them. But generally I get it in the first take. That's all I have to say. I mean, first or second, and then we comp them.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I like to have input too. I'm not like, no, whatever I says goes. I
always feel like I come in, there's sort of what I want to do. Then there's what the producer thinks is right. Then there's what Dave thinks is right. You know, if we're talking about a Foo Fighter record, then there's all my bandmates sitting on a couch behind me, short order cooking me, you know, and somewhere in all that you wind up with something great, you know?
Yeah. Our band's the same way, dude. It's like, we get you want it. The producer's there for a reason to be a sounding board or to push us, or, you know, Ed on one of his songs, he wants me to sound a certain way, like a country thing. And maybe, you know, like, I'll listen to the direction of others, but then sometimes the best thing for me is just to go, and I just let me go. And then I have to grab the lightning out of lightning in the bottle, or whatever they call it. Because then it's gone. If it doesn't happen in the first 2 or 3 takes, it's gone. Yeah. That's what I know.
I was making a record with Dave Cobb a few years ago, solo record, and he wasn't even in the control room when I was sitting there trying to track a lead, and I just heard him from the lounge just yell, "You're overthinking it!" I was like, okay, take 5. Let's start over.
But you're right. I mean, and that's a great producer thought process, because we have to have that other set of ears to hear what we're kind of overdoing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we want to overthink it, right? We want to make sure it's great.
Yeah, man. You're like, this is forever. This is like,
I don't think he really overthought it, though. I think he just fucking went in and did it, you know?
Nice.
Again.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of the song. So this interesting chord structure in the song, because the main riff and the verses are like in A, and then the choruses and the lead section, you're playing in E.
So in E, right?
Yeah, bouncing between them. So why don't you, if you would, show me that first lick, the kind of the something borrowed, something blue from Ace Frehley.
I love that. Okay, let me just tune up one more time. We'll fix this one. Fix it in post.
Hey, by the way, is that the Strat right there that you're playing?
This is a mod. This is not the one, but it's the it's the model that they did of it. It's the more the McCready model of that. But it actually plays. Fender did a great job. It plays and looks exactly like the real one.
Nice.
The 1960.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
The 1959 for 30 years.
Are you one of the only people that's ever had a signature model Gibson and a signature model Fender?
I think so.
That's amazing. I didn't know we were allowed to do that, man.
I didn't know it either until they both asked me, and I was like, well, shit.
Can't say no.
Yeah.
You can't say no. Hey, actually, before we get into the
They're
solo,
both going to be pissed at me now, right? Is
well,
that
exactly.
what's going on?
Yeah. Well, they would only be mad if you just hadn't told either one of them.
He's back to playing Kramers again. What happened?
That would have been a very music industry thing to do, to not bother to tell either one of them that you're working with the other one. Before we break down the solo, could you actually show me the opening lick of the opening riff of the song?
Stone does that, so I don't know how to do it.
Oh, what, for real?
I think that's the first time I've ever played it.
Okay, yeah, because it's one of those riffs that we all know, but I feel like I've played it wrong every time I've tried to play it.
So I'm trying to play it as best as I can. So I don't even know, man. That's it. Yeah, keep going.
Does it go to the...
Yeah, it's D, you're right.
Oh, nice.
I've never played it before, Chris. I always do, this is my part.
See? This show is about learning, Mike. It's about learning.
I know. I'm learning right now on your show.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, show me.
I can't wait to tell Stone that I've almost figured his riff out on your podcast.
Perfect. I really should have known that was not your part, too, if I had done the proper research for this show.
That's okay. This is the part I do over it.
Oh, right.
So, and then I kind of do like Hendrix. I think that's what initially attracted the situation with Stone, because I was doing more Hendrixy stuff over the top of what he was playing. Yeah. So with my thumb, Yeah.
Oh, nice. You're getting the thumb over there on the low E. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's like I can hit that A that way.
Yeah.
And you play that way, so it's like, But and then the chorus is. But Stone does all the hard parts. We should have him here for that part.
Nice. Yeah, we'll have him for the follow-up. Yeah. All right. So anybody that watches the show, I've realized now in doing a few of these interviews that the only phrase I know that's like remotely like theory guy is to say minor pentatonic box, which is handy because just about every guitar solo that I'm breaking down with people is in a minor pentatonic box, which this one is too, starting up around the 12th fret, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. How do you finger that opening lick?
So I go, it's like I bend it from, how do you do it? You go, like a,
so you're like doing like a pre-bend?
Yeah, pre-bend. So it's, yeah.
Okay, nice. Now, that sounds like a pretty, like on the record, it sounds pretty straightforward, gained up tone. Do you remember what guitar and amp and pedal combinations were going on there?
Yeah, I had a Marshall JCM 800 head with 4 25-watt speakers and 4 25-watt cabinet, 25-watt speaker cabinet, and Ibanez Tube Screamer. With my Jeff and Stone bought me a 1962 Japanese reissue black Stratocaster, and that's what I played that on.
Nice. So that's a Tube Screamer. Okay, perfect. Yeah. Perfect. That's so fitting because I'm playing through a pretend Marshall with a pretend Tube Screamer right now.
And your pretend stuff sounds better than my other stuff that I have on right now.
All right, so now what? Tell me if I'm right here, but as it moves from section to section, I'm hearing some tone changes. For the second section, for that second lick kind of part, do you switch it over to the bridge pickup?
I probably do. Again, that's not something I think about, but I do that all the time. So
going back and forth.
then so so when I turn that one, do you mean this part?
I think
I don't remember.
Well, even before that, isn't there something that's like?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. That's it, right? I forgot about it. I don't do the solo the same way live all the time.
Sure.
I generally do this part the same.
Okay.
Then I do not. But that would have. So what that has on it is it was probably the bass pickup, and I think that there's a univibe on it.
Okay, is because it sounds like what is a univibe again? Is that like a tremolo thing?
Kind of a Leslie pedal, if you listen to Machine Gun by Hendrix,
yes,
which is my favorite solo of all time. He's got a univibe where he hits this note where he's going. It's just going. It's just got the greatest watery, cool sound ever.
Okay, I thought I was hearing a wah-wah pedal or maybe like a half-cock wah or something, but no, it's a univibe.
No, it was a univibe.
Okay,
and so I do that lick with the univibe on. Sorry. Oop. Without the pick with it.
You ripped so hard, you've destroyed your guitar tuning.
I know. So that you can hear the univibe on it. Then I go into, and that's where you really can hear the univibe.
Okay, so
with that next, or do you have another thing that I do that I can't remember right now?
There's one more thing in there, but before we do that, so you're playing that still up in that like 12th fret minor pentatonic box area?
Yeah, same thing.
Can you play that really slow for the young kids at home that want to learn that lick?
So let's see. Let me do it fast. So something like that.
Okay.
I think that's what we're doing there.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then there's a...
Right.
Yeah,
then I do that.
So you're on...
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I didn't go back and learn this, Chris, before this, so I'm sorry. I'm glad you learned it.
Well, yeah.
No, did any of the other guitar players not know their solos?
We all don't know our guitar solos, right? Yeah, because nobody does it the same live. But yeah, that'll be funny. That'll be in all the comments on this thing for sure. Like, that's not how he plays it, but it's from him. And then I think before it goes low, there's that next section that's like.
Oh yeah.
And so there's an interesting string bending lick, I think, that I'm hearing in there that almost sounds like kind of a country thing, but I couldn't really wrap my head around how you were fingering it. It's like something like that in there.
Man, sorry, once again. I don't know that lick. I don't know what that
is. Well, that's how I heard it. I heard something along the lines like...
Yeah, so...
Is that what it is?
I don't know if that's it. I think you're closer to what it is, but the main important part of that note is... For me, going back to that Hendrix Machine Gun solo, I was trying to go for that. So that was what I was going after for that specific note.
Nice. So that kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, like one of those spots where you just hold a note and let it breathe.
Yeah, you let it breathe, and it says more than a million notes could say, you know?
Yeah. And then it goes down to that kind of nasty thing too. That
yeah.
I forget what the exact thing was, but then that's where I thought I really heard the wah opening up, but I guess it was the Univibe.
That's the Univibe. So when you hear that, definitely was listening to, thinking about Hendrix and the machine gun solo, because he hit slow notes like that with the Univibe in that song. And so I was like, so it makes it sound more just evil, or I don't know if that's the right word, but, it adds a wateriness and an attention to it that it wouldn't have without that pedal, I think.
Yeah, no, it's nasty. I love it.
Immediacy to it.
I imagine that part of the solo, that's where you drop to your knees and you hold your guitar up and the crowd goes crazy. Every night. Now, from that point, the vocal kind of comes back in, and the lead kind of ducks under, and then it's like a long outro. But and you kind of already talked about it, but I love that it eventually in there's like some rockets, some of that stuff. Yeah, but then it gets to that ace lick for a while.
Yeah. Then so I'm still kind of doing that stuff. So I kind of did that lick again to end it.
Oh, can you show the people at home can you just sort of demonstrate that slow, like what your fingers are doing exactly on that ace?
So yeah. I think that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Or that's it. Like that?
Yeah.
That's it.
That is for the people watching at home. That's the go-to. That's the go-to. If you're ever stuck, just do that, and that'll get you home.
Or start with that, or go. It's in the middle, or it's anywhere in your lead. You got to have that somewhere, right? So then I go into that. I think after that, and then is it?
Yes, and then I know it ends kind of way up there.
There's that, I think,
yes.
in there.
And then what's that last thing? Then you do that kind of again. And then doesn't get...
It's like a... something like that. It's something, I don't think that's it specifically, so it's like that. It's really weird sounding.
Yeah, it's cool, man. I imagine that's the part that's just 100% different every night, right?
It really is, but the meat of it is always. Then I'll do variations on that, and then do the, and then we go back into. I don't know, and Ed singing, then I'll go back into. Then it's off to the races.
Races.
I'll bring all that stuff back in, and then it just depends on how long it goes,
Yeah,
I'll solo a half hour if I have to.
Nice. Do you guys draw it out like that live sometimes?
We do, yeah. Well, it kind of depends on the song live turned into something different over the years, and you've probably seen this with your songs, but
sure.
Initially, it was this kind of one of our early songs, and a song about Ed and his dad and the issues and things like that, and it's very personal to him and to the band, I think, when we were playing little clubs and whatever. And as it grew, as the band grew, it became a fan thing where it's a bigger song now in terms of, I don't know if importance is the word, or if it's acceptance or people gravitating towards it. It's turned into the fan song now. Like, they sing it, they scream it. I follow them. If they're doing something, if they go wah, I'll go wah, wah. I'll try to emulate what they're doing. So it's turned into something that's bigger than all of us. How it is with those songs.
I mean, I would imagine for a song like this, like, it's such an iconic song that people would sing along to your guitar solo. Like, they just know that melody.
They do
too.
a lot of that happens in Europe, but yeah, you're right. They do. Yeah. But that's Alive is turned into something that's life affirming and in terms of, people's lives, I think, that's just only because I've heard that from fans, and you can see it at night.
Who in the band is sort of tasked with being the one that decides how long it's going to go? Like, who are you all watching on? So are you watching Matt, or like who's the one that is going to kind of make the call? Like, okay, that's it.
It depends on the song, but I would say Alive, Ed's out there he throws out a bunch of tambourines while we're doing that. So that's going on. I'm soloing like a maniac. I would say for Alive, that would be more kind of Jeff and Stone, or Stone and Matt. They're back there looking at each other, playing it. And kind of just naturally, how a song naturally feels like it's gone too long or is almost about to go. I don't know. Maybe you felt that too.
Yeah.
But I would say it's those guys.
Okay.
Because I'll keep going, man. I'm just like, whatever. If I can fucking get in the car and go back to the hotel, I'll still get a fucking sandwich, and I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's still. I would say it depends on the song, but it's basically for Alive, it's Jeff and Stone, I would say, and Ed to a certain degree, but he's off doing his thing too.
Right. Yeah. He's off being the iconic front man.
He's doing his thing. Yeah. Yes, he does so well.
One of the things that I do on this show, and you've already been very generous with your time, but I always post to my social media, like who I'm going to interview, and try to get some fan questions. And oh boy, did we get a lot of fan questions for you.
Oh boy.
Would you like to answer some questions from the people?
I would love to answer some questions from the people.
Okay. The first one is very fitting because it ties into what we're doing right here. Bubbles wants to know, I would like to ask, how does he learn solos? And of course, Mike, the answer to that question is you watch Shred with Shifty. That's how you do it, right?
Yeah. Next question. You answered it. That was it.
I said it.
I learned from you. I learned how to do my solo today from you,
That's
Chris.
right. Well, I think we all learned from Ace Frehley. And
we did.
And he learned from Robbie Krieger.
From the Temple of Ace.
Yeah, exactly.
How do I learn the leads? Is that the question? Or
how do you learn solos?
You emulate the people that you like, and you learn their guitar licks. And YouTube is extremely helpful for that now. Like when we were coming up, it was more taking the record and putting it back and taking and listening to it 1,000 times. Yeah. But now, I can learn anything. We did Comfortably Numb, and I learned the solo off of YouTube. I learned Achilles' Last Stand when we did it with Temple, which was the hardest solo I've ever learned. But that was off of YouTube, so that's kind of learn from your favorite guys or women, who were playing leads. That's what I would say. Yeah,
exactly. I kind of have a version of that myself. It's try to find footage of the person actually playing it and see where their hands are. Listen to the record. I mean, I usually start with listen to the record, but then I try to find footage. And then if those two first things fail, you just watch 8 million people on YouTube explain exactly almost how to play it, but it's a little bit wrong, which is good which is why I'm sitting here talking to you, trying to get the legitimate thing.
And you're getting some wrong stuff from me, though. That's the thing.
I know, but that's the beauty of it is because the real lesson for people out there watching, you don't have to learn it exactly the same. It's fun too, but then you got to do your own thing with it.
You got it. That's the main great point. You got to learn your own. You got to bring your own thing to it. I have a question for you.
Hit me.
So if you're writing a song and you're playing it and you don't immediately record it on your iPhone or something like that, does it go away?
Oh my God, gone forever. Yeah. Unless, there's been things that where at night, if something kind of pops into my head and I'm laying in bed and I'm too lazy to get up and go record it or whatever, every now and again, one of those I'll still have it in the morning, but it's pretty rare.
But I understand the not wanting to get up part for sure. I get that.
I think the hardest part is then going back and listening to all those recordings that you make on your phone and then piecing songs together out of them. Or because, most of them are you're like, what the fuck was I thinking? There's nothing. It's an A chord. Huh?
I was just going through that with some stuff on my iPhone and went, oh man, I thought this thing sounded so good at this one time.
Yes.
And in hindsight, it doesn't. But the thing I noticed too with that is that if I don't get the groove of it, then the chords won't matter.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes the groove comes immediately.
Especially with writing lyrics, I feel like if you don't chase it down when you're feeling the inspiration, it's hard to ever kind of get back to it. That's how I feel.
So but when you're writing your lyrics for your stuff, are you writing, this is a classic question, whatever, but are you writing the music first for it, or are you writing the lyrics after or during, or what?
Usually lyrics after, but God, the best stuff is when it all comes at the same time. Yeah. That's how I always feel. Like when it all kind of hits you at once, that's certainly better than going back and looking through your notebook and then you've got a melody with some chords and you're trying to like, shoehorn stuff, you know what I mean? And then you're like, wow, this doesn't fit the rhyming pattern. Now I got to come up with another rhyme for avocado or whatever. You know what I mean? We're like, Luca Magnani has some questions about your current setup, it looks like here. I've always wondered how he uses his amps. He has 3 or 4, and he said in the past that he uses 2 at the same time and then kicks in the other ones for solos. It's quite hard to decode. During the last tour, he had a roll ahead and a couple of Fender digital modeling combos. Does he use one clean, one crunch, one at full blast, or in another way?
I mean, that guy nailed it. It's like
so he already knows.
Yeah. The roll ahead is it's a company. It's made out here in Seattle. It's kind of based on a Marshall a little bit, but it's a local guy. And those 2 Fender I use for, I'll either run those at the same. It depends on the song. Like if it's more of a punk song, I might only use one of the Fenders and crank it really loud to get kind of a small, tight sound. If it's a live, I'll probably use one of the Fenders. I'm forgetting which one it is right now. It's the Twin or Bassman, or I forget which one. I forget right now. I'll use that and the Rolla together. So I can get that clean sound. Then I'll kick it onto when the chorus kicks in. I want to hit it onto the Rolla.
And what's on your pedal board for live?
I have a MXR Phase 90. I like that. I just got a biphase that I'm going to start using that. I have Ibanez Tube Screamer, which I've been using forever. A Diamond compressor, a Space Echo. I'm using that right now.
Nice.
I also have I'm using the Space Echo here, but I use this Line 6 Live.
Oh, sure.
For delays, because I can tap into the drums.
Yeah.
So I love this one. I like that a lot. A Dunlop wah pedal. I like that. I like those.
Do you take like your vintage Tube Screamer out with you?
No, I take, regular ones out. I don't have the old ones. I have a couple old ones at home, but I don't take that. But I take my vintage guitars out and stuff.
Oh, nice. Yeah, vintage guitars are one thing. When you get into those vintage pedals, then shit starts breaking. We got another one, and a lot of people asked about this too, from Zig Daniels. Wants to know, did you really smash a custom shop? I'm assuming it means custom shop guitar, or was it some trickery? And when is the release date for the next version of your signature Fender? That's a 2-part.
Okay. First part of that question, no, it wasn't one of these real expensive ones, which I hate to say that, but
what led to that moment? I've never heard that explained. I did watch that footage online of you smashing the shit out of your pedal board and guitar. Yeah. Was that frustration or was that fun? It
was a release of, we had to cancel, and you've probably been in this situation before too, but Ed had kind of blew his voice out for the last 4 shows of our tour, and we had to blow out. We didn't know how it was going to be every day. We had one show in Vienna, and I went to the show, and then it was canceled because Ed's throat was all fucked up, and he couldn't sing. So we canceled it, and then fans are bummed and whatever, but there's nothing we can do. We can't play. And then we go to Amsterdam, and the same thing happens. I'm not sure. We're kind of taking it day by day. So I walk around Amsterdam, or not Amsterdam, Prague. We go to Prague, and I'm walking around Prague, and I meet a bunch of fans and everything. And I go, I think we're playing. I think so. I'll find out at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And we didn't play that night. because his voice was it was pretty bad. His voice was he had some bad stuff going on in his throat. So we had to cancel those 2 shows. Then we got to Amsterdam, and I'm hoping we can end this tour on one show, but we may not. You never know. We had 2 shows left in Amsterdam. We got there, walk around town again like I do, and run into fans. I'm like, I'll find out at 5 o'clock whether we're playing. I think we're playing. I'm not sure. We're not playing. So I'm building up this like, oh, fuck, I really want to play. I don't want to let the fans down, thing. But, you literally you can't do anything because it's a throat injury. And the last day of the tour, the last show of Amsterdam, the show was on finally, and we're playing, and Ed's back, and it was great. And I had all of this pent up, oh my God, I've been wanting to play for the last 4 days. In that moment, celebrating it, I'm going to smash the shit out of everything. And I don't know if that makes, as I'm saying it, Chris, that doesn't make any sense logically.
I get it. I totally get it.
That's kind of how my brain works, for better, for worse. It was not a real expensive. It was like an $800 Strat. It was thought out. I was like, hey, can I use this, one of those that's not as, just so I can
go to the semi and get me the cheap shit. I'm in a funk.
Basically. That was basically it.
Nice.
But then I took it further. I took my pedal board out and my amp. So, but I've made kind of a career out of breaking shits. I don't even know how many. A lot.
Now it lives on forever as like, this like glorious moment,
It was a good release. It felt great.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a really expensive guitar. So.
All right, here's a guitar dynamic question from Matthew Mayfield. Wants to know, when Ed added a 3rd guitar to the live setting in '94, how did that affect the dynamic in the band? He has continued to play more and more guitar while fronting the band since the Vitalogy era. Has that changed the way you and Stone interact musically? That's the kind of the meat of the question. And I thought this was interesting because I am in a 3-guitar band. And we sort of think about how we sort of put the parts together, at times. But you guys now, not only does Ed play some of the time, but you also, don't you have Josh out there with you? Are you guys at times a 4-guitar band?
We have kind of turned into that. Yes, yeah. We've kind of, Josh plays some of that, but he also does some percussion and keys and other stuff too, and backup vocals. But yes, he does play some guitar. So we have kind of turned into that. So he's been doing some of the overdubs that are on the records. But when that happened with, it's like when Ed started playing more guitar, he had always played guitar, but when he brought it into the mix, we had to sit down and kind of pull back like, okay, do I play less here? Do I play, instead of hitting this chord, do I hit that chord? Or do I hit that chord? And Stone hits that chord, we all try to hit different things, I think, except for in stuff like, like Habit or something that's kind of heavy. We're all kind of doing the same thing, but you don't want to get caught into doing the same thing a lot in terms of because it might sound mushy, I think. So I'm always trying to think of how to play around that. And that comes from also trying to play around Ed's vocals in terms of my guitar playing. But yeah, we divvy up the idea, the guitar responsibilities on the 3 guitar songs, I guess. Does that make sense?
I didn't know if it was like a Mick Jagger type of thing where like, yeah, he's got a guitar in his hand, but it's really the fader's down here.
No, it's funny. Ed'll beat the shit out of his guitar. He's a really hard player. He's really hard punk rhythm. He's got a staccato Pete Townsend thing that he does that none of us can do. And so that adds an element to the songs too that wasn't there before. Yeah. And when it first started, it's like we had to kind of pull back. It's like, okay, maybe play less here. Maybe I'll play dynamically. A thing in our band is dynamic. A lot of dynamics. There's always Jeff and Stone are always talking about that stuff.
But it's nice with that sort of thing to like, then you can really do all the parts from the record because we all layer the fuck out of the recordings.
What do you guys do? You have
Yeah.
three guitar.
I mean,
What do
I would say we kind of talked about it a lot when Pat first came back and figured it out, and now we just fall into it,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just become kind of a natural thing.
And it's natural, too, for us. It is now. Initially, it might have had to work its way into being that way, though.
Yeah. Well, buddy, dude, you have been so great today. This has been so much fun. I'm so glad we finally did this. It's fantastic, and thank you for taking the time to do it.
You got it. Thank you for actually knowing how to play the song so I can learn it again. And happy birthday to you.
Thank
tomorrow.
you, sir. Yeah.
And I'll see you out on the road this summer, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope I get to see you sooner than later, buddy.
That would be great. All right, man.
Awesome. Thank you. I just want to focus real quick on our mutual love of Ace Frehley, so I'm just going to do this one again. Oh yeah. All right, that was my buddy Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. What a cool dude. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another one of those solo review episodes that you can only get on volume.com/Shifty. Adios, amigos.
1, 2, 3.
Shred with Shifty is created and hosted by me, Chris Shiflett, and produced in partnership with Double Elvis, Volume.com, and Premier Guitar. If you're digging the show, make sure you hit that follow or subscribe button so you get our new episodes when they come out every other week. Volume.com is a free platform with live stream performances, concert broadcasts, and a video archive that includes performances by Brothers Osborne, Stone Temple Pilots, Dierks Bentley, Weezer, and more. Shred with Shifty is produced by Jason Shadrick. Our executive producers are Brady Sadler and Jake Brennan for Double Elvis. Engineering support by Matt Tahaney and Matt Bowden. Our video editors are Dan DeStefano and Addison Savan. Special thanks to Chris Peterson, Greg Necron, and the entire Volume.com crew. Adios, amigos.